listening to Power Plug Radio, home of your throwback jams.
Good evening, everyone. You are listening to Taboo Talk on Power Plug Radio, home of your throwback jams. You can listen to us on, are we ready? I'm going to see if I can do this. I always mess it up. Y'all ready? I'm going to try this. All right. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We are now on TikTok. You can also catch us on Alexa. Just say, Alexa, play Power Plug Radio. You can also hear us on YouTube. And I'm missing one. What did I miss? Oh, you can find us on the Apple Store and the Play Store. And last but not least, go to www.powerplugradio.com and you can listen to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your best throwback jams. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on this wonderful Tuesday. And I want to introduce my co-host for 2 weeks in a row, Mr. LaDon, heading from Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, look, he got applause and everything.
That's very nice.
Well, you got
thank you all.
Standing ovation. Look at that. So thank you for joining us. Before we get started on the show, I'm going to give a shameless plug to two shows that we will be having starting in October. One is called No Music Breaks that will come on every Thursday with live commentary from 10 to 11. And we will basically be talking about two songs that in some way, shape, or form influenced us or influenced culture, the everyday. Am I missing anything with that one? Is there anything?
No, you are. So we're going to talk about the music, how it affects us personally, but we're also going to get into how it affects the culture. We're going to deconstruct the way it's made and the lyrics.
Right. Oh, that's right. And the lyrics. And also other music that it probably influenced. So we'll be doing that from 10 to 11. And then from 11 to 12, we will create a playlist that is influenced by those particular songs that we talked about on the show earlier. And I know I'm going to say the second show wrong, so I'm going to let you introduce the second show because I completely had a brain freeze.
No problem. The second show is called Everybody Hates Cold Chili. And this is a group of guys. We are CFB. And we're just some friends. And we're scattered across the United States now. And what we're doing is just having a little fun, but we're going to discuss some serious topics as well. And just kind of challenge the common thought. Challenge just kind of some of the things that are out there, but also kind of have some fun, just kind of joking around with people's feet. So it'll be great. And that starts October.
Yep. So we will be starting our shows the second week of October, one Thursday night, and Everybody Hates Cold Silly will be on Sundays from 11 to 12. So keep listening out for more information on those shows, and we'll keep you updated, and we look forward to you chiming in. So let's get started on the topic for tonight. And the topic tonight is, you can't be surprised because it's me, sex toys. So I'm just saying. Sex toys in the bedroom.
Okay.
I mean, where else would you do sex toys? Come on now, where else? Tell me. I'm missing something.
Well, yes, you are. They don't have to be limited to the bedroom, but that's what they commonly are. Yes, I'll go with sex toys in the bedroom for $500.
For $500, I don't think you're gonna win that one. So I'm just gonna give it to you. There you go. You just get a free $500. But I'm just saying, I'm just messing with you. Sex toys are not just made for the bedroom. Unfortunately, for many people, they think that that's where they should be regulated. So we're gonna kind of break it down and talk about sex toys with couples, married couples. We're also gonna talk about intimidation of sex toys. You hear a lot about how men feel some kind of way, thinking that the sex toy is replacing them. Also, we're going to talk about women who are intimidated by sex toys. And then we're just going to break it down, and then we'll have some additional information for you about some upcoming events that will be coming in 2022. So let's start off with just the topic period. So sex toys, when you use that topic, that's very broad because you can break it down. And when we say sex toys, I'm not just talking about toys. I'm also talking about everything that you can use with them: the lubes, the attachments. Sometimes the sex toy is not something that you can hold in your hand, but something that you hang from your ceiling, or a pole that you can spin around. Anything that can be used to enhance your sexual experience can be put into the category of a sex toy. And for many people, they're not introduced to those until they're older. For women, a lot of times, and just to be 100, a lot of women get introduced to sex toys because of lack of being satisfied. Which can...
Well, that's sad.
It is.
That makes me sad.
It's just like, that's real sad, but it's really true. Think about it though. I know a few women who basically, until they had a toy, didn't know what an orgasm was.
That makes me very sad to know that.
So hopefully we can kind of remedy that and help some people step into the world of realizing that sex toys can enhance. You shouldn't be intimidated by them. You shouldn't feel threatened by them. And they can actually help to not only enhance a relationship, but they can also be used to help a person, not just a woman, a man or a woman, learn more about themselves. And once you learn more about yourself, then you can better not only know what you want to be satisfied, but you can learn and figure out how to enhance and satisfy your partner or partners, depending on who we're talking to. So we're going to start off with sex toys in the bedroom. And with that subject, I think the first natural thing that we're going to fall into, because for many people, is that intimidation factor, or in some cases, it's just straight jealousy. Like, I have heard some of my guy friends talk about finding out that their girls had dildos or vibrators or bullets, and you would think that they had another man. Like, dudes were like salty because they had a sex toy. So I'm gonna throw this one on you as a man. Why do you think that is, in your opinion?
Well, sadly, what I believe a lot of men believe, they may hold their masculinity to the ability to please their partner, right?
Right.
And I think what we believe is vibrators or sex toys in general are some kind of substitute for a partner, which is difficult for a male ego.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The truth is, if it's used correctly, it's not a substitute for the partner, but an enhancement of that partner.
Correct.
At least this is what I believe. So I'm no doctor. I'm a I owed a GED from a community and dropped out of community college. So I'm just going over some things that I believe. But I believe that a lot of men do feel intimidated because they think this thing will replace them. Or, in some cases, and in a recent article I was reading about, where they think this is a gateway to some out of control bedroom behavior.
Right.
So I will admit, in my younger years, I thought a sex toy would replace me. Right. So in my 20-somethings, I was like, I don't know if I want to have this part of this, because I felt like this thing is going to replace me or somehow satisfy my partner more than I. And in most cases, that wasn't the case. And then sometimes you kind of learn how to incorporate it. But that's what I believe why it's intimidating, because you don't want this thing to be more important than me in this sexual act.
So I'm gonna give a disclaimer. I want to put all male egos to rest. A sex toy can never replace the real thing. Ever replace the real thing. I mean, first of all, they have not made one that feels 100% real. Now, I ain't gonna talk about what's gonna happen in the future when the remember, I'm gonna pull Chandra into this. Remember, what was that, about 3 or 4 years ago, when the robots, the sex robot things, and they look so real, the women and the men were losing their minds, and they look so real. There were these companies that were making these sex bots, the sex dolls that looked just like humans. And like this one dude, he married his sex doll. It could do things with this mouth. You could have anal sex with it, vaginal sex with it. I mean, it was just like crazy. Now, I don't know if
you can do that with human beings.
It's too, right. So. You could do that with a human being too. Oh. I don't know if y'all remember, and I'm about to tell my age. There was a movie that came out years ago, and if I remember right, it was called Cherry. Oh, what was it? Cherry 6000 was it? And it 2000, and it starred Melanie Griffith. And this dude had this sex robot that was like 100% human-like, and his robot died, and he didn't want a real woman. He wanted this robot, and he went on this desperate search for the microchip to fix his robot, because his sex robot was out of style. It was the old model, so I'm not going to promise that in the future stuff like that won't happen. But as of right now, there is not a sex toy that can replace the real thing. It's basically, go ahead.
African Queen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but isn't one of the enjoyable things about sex is that human interaction, that exchanging of energies with a person?
Yes.
And while I believe sex toys stimulate your physical nerves and nerve endings, it still doesn't replace a feeling of a human being. Right. So I think that's probably why while you can stimulate yourself, like there's a lot of, the genitalia just have a lot of nerve endings.
Yep.
The rectum has a lot of nerve endings. The nipples have a lot of nerve endings. But it still doesn't stimulate like your mind does when you see a person that excites you.
Right. It's just it's a momentary. It's honestly, it's just to get you from point A to point B. I mean, there's nothing and honestly, guys, if you sat down and you thought about it, and before you got upset, before you allowed your emotions to get into it, how could a piece of silicone, a piece of rubber, some glass, a piece of plastic that has a vibrating, piece of metal in it, how could that ever replace the feeling of skin on skin? How could that ever replace the warmth of a body? How could that ever replace any of those things? It can't. It's not possible. So honestly, it's something that will allow you to get yourself from point A to point B. Release some energy because I'm frustrated in the moment, or I just need a release. It's all of those things.
I want to push back on some of your wording, African Queen.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a heterosexual, cisgendered male who considers himself a man, you using the term "you guys." So, do women not? So, like a woman not intimidated by sex toys, or does that just not happen? Or are you just saying only males kind of fall into that?
Okay, so
category?
I'm gonna be based off of my years in the industry of selling toys. I've been selling toys since 2007, I believe, is when my company got established.
I'm sorry, you said you sell toys. What is your name of your company?
Sweet Pleasures, and we're
Sweet Pleasures,
and we're rebooting it, and it'll be back in 2022. So look forward to that.
Ooh,
and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I didn't kick the right. I kicked that one. but and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the show. But you know, in doing different types of parties, I have done all female parties. I've done all male parties. I have done LGBTQ plus parties. I've done couple parties. I have done swinger parties. In seeing those, where you hear the most questions and the most intimidation comes from men, I believe that is the reason, because very rarely, not saying that they don't use it, but for the most part, in any of the parties that I've done that was like all male or couple parties, except for the LGBTQ parties, the men were usually buying toys to satisfy their significant other. Very rarely
men were buying toys to. Okay, I'm listening.
So very rarely did you see a man buying a masturbator or anything for his own personal gratification. Okay. Usually when a man got a toy for his own personal gratification, it was gifted to him by his significant other. So I don't think we see as much intimidation coming from a woman, because men who do purchase the sex toys for their own use probably hide it very, very well, or their woman is already, or I'm not going to just say their woman, their significant other is already a part of it, whether she knows about it or she gifted it to him. So did that answer your question?
I think it does.
Okay.
And it helps. Thank you very much.
It's a slippery thing. I think that it also has a lot to do with imagery. You know what I'm trying to say. Me and my speech impediment. But
imagery?
Thank you.
Oh, you yes, imagery.
And because what it looks like. Florida? Hush. Did you really just go there? You really went there.
Continue.
Okay. Yeah.
Continue. Right. I'm sorry. You were carry on.
So, men want to feel masculine, but also men want to have that conquest. So, listen. Just let me finish. And it's not. It's the look of it. I'm just saying the look of it. So why would I need a toy if I can go out and get some punani whenever I want? It's knocking my door down. So I don't need a toy. What do you mean a toy? I don't need a toy. I got pussy readily available. It may not be true, but for many, not all men, I'm not saying all men, but for many men, that is their attitude. I realized that the men who came to my parties, 9 times out of 10 were very confident in themselves, did not need to prove anything to anyone else, and didn't give a rat's patootie what people thought. There were the men who were very uncomfortable because their girlfriends' wives forced them to come. You know, them the ones that would be sitting there looking, and those are the ones who usually, if the wife lit up at the sight of a dildo, she'd look at her husband and that light would completely go out once she looked at him because he wasn't comfortable.
Now, let me add then, as a man, I think also, you mentioned the word conquest, but I think it's to an extent, there's psychological, like a domination to this, right? Okay. It's like, I pleasured this woman so much that she went to sleep, right? I'm sure women have the same kind of feeling afterwards if they perform very well in the bedroom and the man is like, and just knocked out. Now, as a younger man, again, in my more immature days, I might have stood up and put my hands on my hips and, with my chest out.
Go ahead, Superman.
And thought to myself, aha, I have dominated this human being in a positive way, right? I caused them so much pleasure that they could not stand it anymore. And that did wonders for my ego. Now, whether it's true or not, I think that's where sex toys as a substitute can become, or where I can feel that it is substituting my act, because now that's taking my conquest or my dominion away.
Right.
She's pleasuring herself and I'm no longer needed. So if I'm no longer needed, so where do I fit in this sexual act.
Right.
So I think that's part of it too, because again, it's more than just she's trying to get from point A to point B. It seems like for a lot of people, though, it is also the journey to the destination, not just the destination. Would you agree, African Queen?
I would agree. I would agree. I would agree for those who are mature enough to understand. Some people don't understand that, because if we look at maturity, I mean, and I'm just, everyone who listens to my show, who watches, knows that we're talking sexual maturity, not necessarily anyone stupid or anything. Just maturity. Age comes into this. I remember when, honestly, the first time I was intimate with somebody was absolutely horrible, because he didn't know what he was doing. And I was like, okay, if this is what it is, I'm never doing this again. Point blank. He didn't know what he was doing. We were young. We were teenagers. But he had no idea what he was doing. It was painful. And at the end, he was fine. And I was sitting there like, yeah, I don't ever have to do this again. I'm never having children. I'm going to become a nun. But for many young women, that's not all. But for many young women, their first time having sex is not the best thing in the world. It gets better with time. It gets better with age. Even into my 20s, and I'm not going to name this particular person, but this particular person had no idea of intimacy. It was just all about the act of sex. No foreplay, no nothing. It was, all right, this is what we're going to do. Okay, let's do this right now. Okay, I'm done.
But African Queen, I think we might be conflating things. See, that immaturity comes from high hormones, right? So you're just trying to hurry up and get to a point. The reason I bring that up, because some old men who don't know what they're doing.
That's because they never learned.
There's some adult men who don't know what they're doing, because maybe they just been doing the wrong thing for so long.
And I blame, and forgive me, ladies, when I say this, but I blame the many women who never spoke up to say, dude. But and I shouldn't say blame. Because in many cases, and you and I have had this conversation, in many cases, we are not groomed, taught, and in some cases allowed to say, well, that really didn't feel good, but if you did it like this. And I think that a toy can help in that, because sometimes you need an additional something to help you explore. You may not feel comfortable, but if you had that additional thing to help you explore the woman's body, for the woman to explore your body, then I believe that it would help you learn the human anatomy better. That's just my opinion.
Now, conversely now, so in a recent Psychology Today quote, it said in the context of sex toys, positive communication means that partners who feel threatened can open up about their concerns, feel heard and validated, and receive assurance from their partners that a desire to use a sex toy in no way a comment on their virility, desirability, or sexual ability. So
right.
What that kind of says, it's on the partner to also reassure that their partner that this thing is not replacing them, right? Or is not, it should enhance, right? There are many toys that actually work for both male and female, female and female, and male.
Right, simultaneously.
Well, or multiple, right?
Yes, right.
Depending
True.
on how many people you got. But I think you touched on something, that communication. If you said women who don't communicate, I would say, just to generalize, people who don't communicate that this is an addition to that person and not a replacement. I think that's a big deal.
But sometimes the person will try to relay that message, and it's just not heard, because and this is from personal experience, where I have experienced trying to be open, not force something like, hey, let's have a conversation. Hey, you want to try this? And it's immediately shut down. And that's because in the mind of that man, no, I don't, nope. If I'm not enough, then, so we have to sometimes break through a wall. And it's not just, and I can only speak on an experience of a woman with a man. I know that there are probably plenty of men out there who have experienced this when they have tried to introduce things into their love life, into their bedroom, and their women was like, nope, I'm a good girl. My mama told me that, or nope, that's not something that I want to do. And they're very close-minded. So it's a lot of times that no matter how the approach is, because of something that is long-term. So you know how you said when you were younger, you were intimidated, but something happened between you being younger and now that allowed you to open up and be more open to the use of toys in the bedroom with your significant other, with your loved one.
That's a true statement. And what that is it was empathy.
Okay.
So here's what I learned. I learned to try to, what made me feel good about during sex was also if my partner, always a woman, was also pleased. Now, in some cases, the use of a toy was just so we can make it easier or quicker to have orgasm, because it could have been for time. Mm-hmm. But after a while, what I would try to do is try to learn my partner. I would try to learn her body, okay, and see what she liked, because it did take a while, but I learned that, I can't use the same move on everybody because
we're not
every woman don't like the same thing.
That's right.
But I through that's when I learned that toys in some cases, sexual toys, vibrators, accoutrements, if you will, are things that I could use to, like, I'm short on time, I gotta be at work, let me hurry up and just bust this out so she can get hers and I can get mine. Or I want to say, let's try something totally different because we've been doing this for so long, and now I'm open to trying some new stimulation. So that, again, it took a while.
But don't you think that
was only
that
maturity
comes with
because
time and
I
trust?
started to look. Yes,
okay.
Well, definitely.
Okay.
And also self-confidence. I mean, that's something that, as you pointed out earlier, if I wasn't confident or knowledgeable about myself as a person and as a sexual being, then no, I probably I would never like toys, because I would always wonder if this thing was replacing me. And I think I grew to understand what I could add to this experience. So sometimes it could have been just holding a toy. And sometimes I'm not trying to physically get off. Maybe I'm trying to psychologically get off by, I could be fully clothed and bring a woman to orgasm and feel satisfied. Not physically, but psychologically, I know I just wrecked her world in a good way, right? So I know, knowing myself, that's why I would feel that toys, as I got older, were not such a bad thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. I've said this several times, and I mean this. I believe this. I believe that classes need to be taught, on intimacy and how to not only know yourself but learn your partner and how to introduce new things, and not be. I've told this story before, doing one of my parties, and the woman who was there and didn't, and she point blank told us, I don't think I've ever had an orgasm, and we were like, huh? And she was like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy sex with my husband, it feels good, but you all talk about this explosion, I've never had that. at the end. I never had this oh my God moment at the end. It was just always the emotional connection was there. You know, the
Right.
it felt good, but she never felt the orgasm at the end. Well, we all know, well, not all of us, but many people know that one reason why it was most likely because one of the hardest ways for a woman to have an orgasm is vaginally.
Vaginal, right?
And men
Vaginal
should
only.
yes, and men should know that because a lot of times, well, no, I'm not saying they should know that, like, but they should. I'm saying, how can I say that? I don't mean they should know it like, oh, you should know it right off the bat. What I mean to say is that's information that men need to know so they understand that if their woman says, no, I didn't have an orgasm, they don't get mad at themselves or they don't get mad at her or frustrated and like, okay, I don't know what's wrong. You know, many women have been pinned as frigid because they've never had an orgasm vaginally because the man just doesn't understand. Because in sexual situations throughout history, whenever there was something wrong sexually, 9 times out of 10, it was blamed on the woman. Who was the king who kept killing his wives because they kept producing girls?
Henry VIII.
Okay, because it was actually his fault.
So
you know,
right. Well, so right, and science would reveal that later. But
right.
I want to push back just a little bit.
Okay.
So something you said, and this is why I want to push back, that many men are not in the act to please their woman. Right?
I said that?
If it's someone, and what? No. I'm gonna go into. You were saying that many men should know, right?
It should be
know,
something that they learn. That's why I said there should be classes so men can know this and understand this. And I know the only men who are going to come to class is the ones who want to learn.
Exactly, and that's exactly the point I was getting ready to make. Because what you're doing is you're assuming that men want to please their partner. So in a relationship, right? If you're in a relationship with a person, you care about that person, yes, you want to bring pleasure to them. But if you're going out and you're single and you're not physically or emotionally attached to anyone, but you really want to share a sexual experience with someone, you're not really caring whether they get theirs or not. So you might just not, that might not be something you listen to. You might not listen to that person's body.
Right.
You might just be trying to achieve orgasm yourself. So I might not care that the best way for her to orgasm is both clitoral and vaginal, right?
And that's true. So before we go any further, I want to do some shout outs. I want to say hi to some people that we have online. So what's up, Lethal? Hey, Tiffany, thank you for joining us. Look, I even got family on here. My cousin Angie and my cousin Warren are on here. Hey, cuz. I'm glad to see both of you here. This is Wanda, Jonathan. Who else do we have?
I see Everybody Hates Cold Chili just showed up.
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I see. So watch yourself. Watch it.
So we do have some comments, though. We have some comments, and Warren, he said most men learn about sex from porn, and I kind of agree. Especially nowadays, because like back in the day, you know, you had to go to the video store in the back of the room and go in that back room with the curtain, you know, that you weren't allowed to go back if you wasn't 21 years or older, and you would have to rent a video and then go and put it into a VCR and hope nobody hears it. Now you can put some headphones in and go on your phone and go to Pornhub, you know, or OnlyFans, and you can see all of the porn you want. And there's not porn that shows two people, you know, deeply in love, you know, caressing each other and making love. No, it is just, you know, gang banging and fucking and anything else you can think of.
That is an excellent point. And here's where I think we miss, because we forget that these people are actors.
Yes.
They are porn actors.
Yes.
And we forget that this is really for entertainment, and we start to believe this acting, right?
Right.
So if I see Denzel Washington, I understand, well, Denzel's not really Malcolm X. That's Denzel Washington dressed as Malcolm X, speaking like Malcolm X. But I think because of the intimacy of porn as a medium, we think this is actually how you're supposed to perform, and you kind of mimic that, right? You kind of copy that, and you think that's what's going on.
And what happens in porn,
actually,
think about it. In most porn, not all porn, because the
men get his orgasm, and the woman is there to make sure he gets his orgasm
for his pleasure, and they're treated as objects. In some, not all, because there is female dominated porn, especially when you come to talk about dominatrix and men who want to give up their power for that time or moment. So you do see where you will find you find porn and you find sex mediums that are female dominated who dominate the men, but you don't see that as much as the women. The women sometimes not just being dominated or used for a man's pleasure, but also being, degraded in some cases. And that's okay. Like honestly, if you go onto a porn site, you're going to see, teen have sex with step grandfather. It's like you see all of the little young girls, and we know that they're not really young. They're just some woman who's dressed up in pigtails in a short, private school uniform. But it's not what it really is. It's the fantasy that gets people off. But that is all about control. The young innocent girl who is seduced by the 60-year-old or the stepfather or the older uncle or the plumber or, stuff like that.
Well, before we get back to the topic of sex toys, I do want to point out that one of the members of Everybody Hates Cold Tilly points out that soft porn is kind of a romance porn is a market, right?
It is. Yes, it is.
All right. So your, what is it? 50 Shades of Grey, right?
Yeah.
In book form and in now that's soft core.
It is, but it also
pornographic and many people. So that could be a market for women where things aren't, so misogynistic, right? In fact, I believe I haven't seen the whole movie because I couldn't make it through it, but I'm assuming that sometime that she gets some power over the guy.
Yeah, finally in the very end, but it took 3 movies to get to that.
Okay.
And honestly, if you look at 50 Shades of Grey, it was actually under the same duress as Beauty and the Beast. Everyone wants to make Beauty and the Beast to be so freaking romantic, but he basically kidnapped her and she was suffering from what's that syndrome when you're kidnapped and you end up having sympathy? Munchausen syndrome. That is what she basically was suffering from. It was.
Well, that's unfortunate.
But it's true.
He was a nice guy.
Yes, the Beast was a nice guy, but that's basically what happened.
So you mentioned the Beast. So what if the Beast had used some kind of accoutrement, some kind of toys? Now, it sounds like a lot of the toys we were talking about.
Depending on what genre you looked at Beauty and the Beast in, believe me, the Beast had a whole dungeon down in the bottom of the castle. I'm just saying.
So some of the toys that we've been talking about of the vibrator and dildo, but there are now wooden swings and benches and those kind of things be considered sex toys in the bedroom as well, or no?
Yes. So let's talk about the actual toys. So
please.
We can start from the smallest. So usually the smallest that you're going to find is a bullet. Bullet comes in different sizes. They do different things. They all vibrate, but the difference is that they vibrate in different patterns, in different speeds and intensities. So that's usually the smallest one that you're going to find. You can find bullets that are for female only. But a lot of times you can find what we call vibrating cock rings, which can be used for both the male and the female, that has like a tiny small bullet in it. That the cock ring, of course, helps the man keep his erection longer, and then the vibrating bullet, because of the way it's positioned, helps to stimulate the woman on her clitoris. So that's one of the ones.
So a bullet is a type. That's a type.
That's a
sex
type,
toy.
right? So when you
Gotcha.
graduate from
Gotcha.
the bullet, you go up to the egg, and the egg is basically just a bullet, but it's larger. It's shaped like an
Okay.
egg. And then
All
you
right.
you graduate up from there. You have different types of dildos that come in different types of shapes. You have rabbits, and you have what was it? The beaver. The beaver was really popular back in the 90s for a really long time.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This thing is called the beaver.
Yeah, it's
Is that what
called.
you just said?
Yep, it's called the beaver.
Okay, so then I'm clear. I'm learning here. Thank you very much, African Queen.
Yes.
I want to understand. So the bullet is for clitoral stimulation. The
Well,
egg.
it depends. It depends because you
Oh.
can use it for internal stimulation also, because some of them are small enough that it can be used just by itself internally, or it can be used during the act of sex.
Aha.
So both can be
Okay.
there.
So this egg
Mhm.
is this egg clitoral or vaginal or
It's
anal
both.
or
Well, actually, it can be all
phallic?
three. You just want to be careful because anally, you don't want it to get too far and get lost. It has happened.
right? We don't want to,
We don't want
as
that to
someone
happen.
pointed out, we don't want an ostrich egg size.
Right.
Okay.
You don't want to go to the doctor and have to have an X-ray and explain why you have, But believe me, talk to any ER doctor; they have seen it along with some other things.
And the egg is a type as well.
Yes,
That's
it's a
type
vibrator.
of
It's
toy.
yes, it's
That's a
type of
vibrator.
toy.
I
Yep.
understand.
So when you graduate from
All right.
there, that's when you get into more of the dildos. Now, not every dildo is shaped like a man's penis. Many of them, thank you. Many of them are shaped in different shapes. Like the rabbit can have a rounded head, or it can be shaped like a penis. But then they call it a rabbit because it has ears. Those ears vibrate. So as the woman is using it, it can stimulate her clitoris. Or you can have
Okay.
one that both stimulates the clitoris, the vagina, and the anus at the same time. And then they come in different
Fantastic.
shapes. They come in different sizes. They move differently. They vibrate differently. Some of them, literally do figure 8 circles. Some of them do circles. Some of them wave. That's how they move. There's actually one called the Wave, and it came out in the late 2000s. And we don't show these type of commercials here, but over in Europe, sex toys are shown. They have commercials that come on TV because they're a little bit more free in certain parts of Europe than we are here in the United States. And this particular toy called the Wave had its own commercial that actually won an award because it was so
Fantastic.
realistic.
Get out.
You have oral sex stimulators.
Wait, before you go on further,
Mhm.
you spoke about the bullet, the egg, and then the dildo. Now, you use the term graduated. Is this something that has to escalate?
No, you start where
Because
you're
do you
comfortable.
need to graduate? I understand.
Now,
okay. So now,
yeah, you start where you're comfortable.
okay, no problem. And you said now there's oral stimulators?
Yes, so
Tell
there's
me more.
So you have different toys that are shaped like tongues. Oops, sorry about that. You have different vibrators that are shaped like tongues, or
I'm
there's
sorry, do you have one there?
No, sorry, that was
okay.
something
Fine.
else. That was my rattlesnake, which
All
is
right.
not a sex toy.
I understand.
So,
All right.
but no, you have some
No
that are
worries.
shaped like one tongue and it moves like a tongue. You have some
Wow.
that is like a wheel and it has a whole bunch of little tongues on it.
Oh my God.
You have suctions to make it feel like the suction of oral sex for both male and female. When you go into the male, you actually have masturbation simulators. So you'll hear the name pocket pussy. And
my goodness.
the reason why they call it a pocket pussy is because it can fit in your pocket and you can take it anywhere. So it's made
How
out
convenient.
of right. Okay. So they have disposable pocket pussies, which is a one-time use.
Disposable. I'm
Disposable.
sorry. Nope. I apologize. So it is a disposable
Yes.
pocket pussy.
A disposable
All right,
pocket
okay.
pussy.
Because I might. Okay.
You might what? Go ahead.
No, I'm feeling this. I'm learning. No,
You're
I'm
taking
learning.
notes, huh? You're
African
taking
Queen,
notes.
please teach me more. I am.
So-
I'm writing. Pocket.
Disposable
Got
ones, it's just like it's a one-time use. You know, I mean, honestly, not trying to gross anyone out, but like a condom, one-time use. Once it's used,
Okay.
you don't want to use it again. You cap that bad boy, you throw it in the garbage. But then they also have the ones that can be used over and over and over again. And those are ones that, of course, there's going to be maintenance after. You're going to have to take it and clean it. So they have them in all different sizes. They have them in all different shapes. So you can get a pocket pussy based on tightness. You can get one based on depth. You can also get one based on what is the additional stimulator on the inside of the mock vaginal canal. And then you can also get them that are vaginal, the ones that look like anal, and the ones that feel like a mouth. So
Wait.
men
Okay.
have
Okay.
all of those.
Hold on. African Queen, I'm sorry. I gotta interrupt.
I'm overwhelming you.
So, if they look like a mouth,
Right.
do they have lipstick or gloss? What am I talking about?
Some
What
of
am I
them do.
talking about?
So a lot of the ones that actually look like a body part, they are actually replicas of famous porn stars.
Is that right?
Yeah, so many porn stars make additional money because what they'll do is they'll let a mole of their vagina or their anus in their butt, because some of them it's just the
Or their
anal.
penis. Hello, there are male actors.
Yeah, no,
This
but right
is
now,
kind of a
no,
one-sided conversation, African Queen.
because right now we're talking about male masturbators. We're gonna get to the other ones in a
Oh,
minute.
okay. I
So
apologize. Continue.
they'll allow moles to be made of their mouths, or some of
Uh-huh.
them is actually, it looks like a woman's butt. It's not just, it's her whole butt, and they're actually
Wow.
a cast of that. So you
Wow.
have all of those. Some of them, you don't want all of that. You want just something that you can hold in your hand. Now, when you go over to the woman, yes, you are correct. There are male porn stars who allow their genitalia to be molded and they're marketed out to the women.
Nice.
So you
Good
can
job,
also
guys.
get them in flesh color. You can get them.
Flesh colored.
Yep,
I'm
so you
sorry.
can say-
Flesh
You
color.
can get white, Puerto Rican, Asian, African American, and then in the African American,
sorry.
you can get dark chocolate, you can get milk chocolate, you can get caramel.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, you look, the sex toy industry is one of the largest industries in the world. It may be one of people. It may be a taboo for many people, but believe me, those people who are frowning on it when they're talking in the everyday are the same ones who are going into the ecstasy store or coming to a Sweet Pleasures toy party and buying it for the privacy of their own room. Because you don't have to be bold and talk about the fact that you have a drawer full of sex toys. You don't. But it doesn't mean that you don't have it. It doesn't mean that you have not realized that this is something that you like, and you don't have to stand up and announce it to the world.
that is a true statement. Now, thus far, you have talked about vibrators and dildos and oral stimulators. What other types of toys could you have? Now, thus far, it sounds like everything that you said has to go in your hand.
Okay, so
You have to
if
hold
we can, there's no way we can talk about everything in one show. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to the next level. So we're going to go up a level now.
Oh,
This is a level. That you probably I wouldn't suggest starting off here. But hey, to each his own. But you have the BDSM. So with the BDSM can be, you can have the domineering, you can have the pain. Some people do like pain. So that's when you find the nipple clips and the scrotum clips, and you find the belts and the whips and the chains. You find the ties for people to be tied up.
uh-huh.
You find the paddles. Then when you get into that, you get into the leg spreaders, and you get into the handcuffs, and you get into the sex sheets, and then you get into the being chained to the doors, and you get into the sex swings. And so that's why I said I don't think that's some place that someone just wants to start. That's something that you gradually work your way up to. But I mean, if you're bold like that, go ahead. Do you?
And this sounds, see, all these things, you'd have to be emotionally and at least comfortable with the partner or partners that you're performing this with.
I
right?
would say yes, because some of them means that you have to honestly surrender. You have to give over will. You're not just surrendering, you are allowing yourself to be handcuffed or tied up. So you need to trust that person. You need to trust that if you say, and we all heard about the safe word through Kevin Hart, you know, he was yelling pineapples, but that wasn't just a joke. People have safe words because sometimes the stimulation gets to be too much. Sometimes they are like, okay, you know what? I don't like this. So you have to be with someone that when you say whatever your safe word is, that person is going to honor that and say, okay, you said the safe word, we're going to stop. You know, so okay. Yes, it needs to be with someone that you trust, someone that you know will honor your level of comfort, because your level of comfort may not be the same as your partner, because many times what happens for people is that they come into a relationship where one person has more experience, and what they do is they introduce their significant other, their loved one, whatever, to a new world of something. And that person, if they are versed in what they're doing, if they know what they're doing, they know that they have to gradually bring them in to help them feel comfortable. You can't just say, all right, baby, we married now, and I'm going to take you downstairs to the sex dungeon that you knew nothing about for the last 2 years of our relationship. You know, that's just not going to work. You know,
no, that sounds like it would be a difficult thing to try to explain.
Very much so. And so you have to gradually graduate them in. Honestly, history shows that it seems to be much more acceptable. It's easier for a woman to accept that her husband or her man is into different, and that's the term we're going to use, not the norm of sex, you know, just, you know, the norm of sex is usually certain positions, you know, okay, missionary, doggy style, cowgirl, you know, those are the normal things. But then when you get beyond that, you're starting to get into the more quote unquote, as some people will say, exotic. And exotic has different levels, and it depends on the person that you're talking to. But one of the things that you find is that if the man is into it and he brings his woman into it, that's a lot more acceptable than if the woman is the one who's into it and then she tries to bring her husband into it. It goes back to Kevin Hart and that line, and he says, it's like, when did this become a whorehouse? You know, and that is what a lot of men is going, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? No. Good girls don't do stuff like that. You know, so that's a whole nother stigma and a whole nother show that we need to talk about, because that's a stigma that comes unfortunately onto women. It's not as acceptable for a woman to be free with sex as much as it is for a man, and that's another conversation that we'll talk about on a later show.
That is a different conversation, African Queen. Wow.
So go ahead. No.
Well, real quick, I just wanted to kind of bring up again, coming October 14th, 2021, No Music Breaks podcast, starring the African Queen and myself, LaDon. And we will be discussing music and deconstructing music. And then that following Sunday, October 17th, 21, Everybody Hates Cold Silly podcast with Melvin, LaDon, Mike, and Mario. That will be fantastic.
Are you sure it's LaDon? I thought that show had Donnie in it.
We'll see. You know what? That show might have Donnie in it. We'll see, though. I
was just wondering. So I want to say thank you to everyone for listening. I know that for some people this topic may have been a bit much, and for that I do not apologize, because that's what this show is about. It is called Taboo Talk, and the reason for this show is because many things that people consider taboo should not be, and I want to help to normalize those things. This is a topic that we will come back to in future shows. I want to say thank you for joining us. You are listening to Taboo Talk on Power Plug Radio, home of your throwback jams.
You're listening to Power Plug Radio, home of your throwback jams.